Nobody knew. Putin reveals explosive energy deal with von der Leyen. In just 47 seconds, 340 billion in hidden energy contracts surfaced in a Moscow briefing room. Vladimir Putin didn't wait for diplomatic protocol. He placed a folder marked Brussels Energy Framework, Confidential, on the podium and began speaking with surgical precision. The cameras focused tighter. The international press corps fell silent. What did Putin reveal about Ursula von der Leyen that sent shockwaves through every European capital simultaneously? The revelation came at exactly 2:17 p.m. Moscow time during a routine energy briefing. Putin approached the podium with the calculated confidence of someone holding a loaded weapon. He placed a folder marked Brussels Energy Framework, Confidential, on the lectern, his movements deliberate and precise. His hands remained perfectly still as he opened the dossier, scanning the room with the cold assessment of a chess master positioning for checkmate. The international correspondents had no idea they were about to witness the systematic destruction of European political credibility. Putin's voice carried measured precision. He referenced Article 194 of EU treaty law governing energy cooperation. When Putin quotes EU law verbatim, diplomatic dynamite is about to explode. The first bombshell, between September 2023 and March 2024, von der Leyen's office engaged in 17 back-channel communications regarding long-term gas arrangements. These shadow negotiations bypassed Parliament and national energy ministers, involving $340 billion in wire transfers across multiple tranches, securing Russian energy for the next decade while maintaining sanctions facade. Putin revealed von der Leyen personally approved Article 122 emergency procedures to fast-track energy deals without oversight. While Europeans faced energy rationing, their Commission president secured massive Russian gas imports at 40% below market rates. Putin's evidence followed devastating progression. Archived Commission Gazprom communications, $19.3 billion in pre-allocated emergency funds for Russian purchases, and audio of von der Leyen's chief of staff discussing flexibility mechanisms with Russian negotiators. At 2:24 p.m., Putin delivered the knockout, von der Leyen's authenticated signature on agreements allowing 300% gas delivery increases during emergencies, while publicly advocating energy independence. Journalists frantically typed. The Reuters correspondent's jaw tightened. The BBC bureau chief signaled his camera operator. Within 8 minutes, another energy gate was trending. Von der Leyen lies reached 2.3 million mentions within an hour. Italian and Spanish news outlets began emergency broadcasts, interrupting regular programming with breaking EU energy scandal banners. TikTok clips of Putin's folder reveal went viral faster than platform moderators could track, reaching 50 million views in the first 3 hours. The most damaging revelation, the Brussels bypass protocol showing Russian energy payments processed through Swiss banking to avoid sanctions detection. The protocol bore von der Leyen's digital signature and included retroactive legal immunity provisions. Evidence proved EU leadership systematically undermined their own sanctions while demanding stricter measures. Putin revealed $127 billion in Green Deal funds had actually been pre-allocated for Russian energy contracts. European taxpayers funding renewable independence were actually subsidizing expanded Russian dependence. At 2:31 p.m., Putin unveiled Protocol 7. Classified authority giving Commission presidents power to suspend sanctions during emergencies. Von der Leyen used this 17 times between October 2023 and February 2024, increasing Russian imports while calling for tighter sanctions. The geopolitical implications began crystallizing immediately. If Putin's documents were accurate, the entire European Union's energy policy had been a deliberate deception orchestrated at the highest levels. Member states that had implemented painful economic reforms and accepted massive energy costs based on Commission guidance had been systematically betrayed. The political earthquake would reshape European politics for decades. The room's tension became physically palpable when Putin displayed communication logs showing coordination between von der Leyen's office and Russian energy ministers on public messaging synchronization. The documents proved that EU and Russian officials had been coordinating their public statements to maintain the appearance of adversarial relations while expanding energy cooperation behind closed doors. The level of coordination suggested not just policy hypocrisy, but active collaboration with a supposedly sanctioned state. Putin concluded his presentation by announcing that all 847 pages of documentation would be transmitted to the International Court of Justice within 72 hours. He stated with characteristic precision that the evidence demonstrated systematic deception of European citizens by their highest elected officials. The legal implications were immediate and devastating. If the ICJ accepted the case, von der Leyen would lose all diplomatic immunity, and the entire European Commission could face international legal proceedings. The silence following Putin's final statement lasted exactly 23 seconds. When questions began, the first came from a German correspondent asking about verification procedures. Putin's response was chilling in its simplicity. He stated that all documents carried digital authentication codes that could be verified by any EU member state's intelligence services within hours. The challenge was direct and public. Either European governments would verify Putin's claims and confirm the massive deception, or they would have to publicly dispute documentation that Putin clearly believed was unassailable. The financial market's reaction was immediate and catastrophic. The euro dropped 3.2% against the dollar within minutes of the first translations appearing online. European energy stocks crashed as investors realized that the entire sector's regulatory framework had been built on systematic deception. German industrial giants saw billions wiped from their valuations as markets priced in the possibility of energy policy chaos across the continent. The most chilling aspect of Putin's revelation was its timing. European governments were simultaneously implementing emergency energy measures, asking citizens to accept rationing and massive price increases, while their Commission president had secretly secured stable Russian supplies at massive discounts. The betrayal of public trust was so complete, so systematic, that it threatened the legitimacy of European democratic institutions themselves. Brussels' initial response was telling in its absence. 6 hours after Putin's briefing, the European Commission had issued no statement, held no press conference, and provided no denial. The silence suggested either frantic legal consultation or complete strategic paralysis. When institutions take hours to deny explosive accusations, experienced political observers understand that verification, not denial, is usually the priority. Behind the scenes, the panic was absolute. Sources inside the Berlaymont building reported emergency meetings stretching past midnight, with von der Leyen's closest advisors reportedly destroying documents and wiping digital records. The Commission's legal team was seen entering the building at 11:47 p.m., carrying boxes of files marked Energy Framework Legal Review. The desperation was palpable. When the most powerful bureaucracy in Europe starts shredding papers after business hours, the political earthquake has already begun. The individual member state reactions revealed the depth of the betrayal. In Warsaw, Prime Minister Morawiecki called an emergency cabinet session, reportedly shouting that Brussels sold us to Moscow while demanding we freeze. Polish citizens had endured energy rationing and massive heating bill increases, all while believing they were supporting Ukrainian independence. The revelation that their sacrifices had funded expanded Russian energy deals triggered immediate protests outside the Polish representation to the EU. Berlin's response was equally explosive. Chancellor Scholz, already under pressure for Germany's energy dependencies, faced the nightmare scenario of discovering that EU leadership had secretly expanded the very dependencies he was being blamed for creating. German industrial leaders, who had invested billions in alternative energy sources based on Commission guidance, were reportedly demanding immediate compensation for what they now viewed as systematically induced financial losses. Putin's technical revelations showed sophisticated deception. Shadow contracts included flexibility clauses allowing 400% delivery increases during winter, with payment guarantees backed by European Central Bank reserves. European taxpayers were unknowingly underwriting Russian energy profits while told their governments imposed punitive sanctions. Paris reacted with characteristic fury. President Macron, who had built his political reputation on European energy independence and green transition leadership, discovered that his Commission ally had been systematically undermining every policy he advocated. French energy giant Total Energies saw its renewable energy investments lose $8.7 billion in market value as investors realized that EU energy policy had been deliberately duplicitous. The French government's immediate response was to demand von der Leyen's resignation and call for emergency commission elections. The evidence Putin displayed included Protocol 12, showing that the shadow energy deals included Russian guarantees to maintain artificial scarcity in European energy markets to justify higher prices for consumers while ensuring stable, discounted supplies for EU institutions. This meant that European citizens had been paying inflated energy costs not due to sanctions' effectiveness, but due to market manipulation coordinated between EU leadership and Russian energy companies. The betrayal was multi-layered, with ordinary Europeans subsidizing both Russian profits and EU administrative costs through deliberately inflated energy bills. Ukraine's President Zelensky, learning EU support synchronized with Russian cooperation, reportedly called von der Leyen directly. The call lasted under 3 minutes and ended with Zelensky hanging up. If EU leadership coordinated with Russia while supporting Ukraine, Western alliance credibility faced systematic collapse. The evidence suggested European energy policy was theater, maintaining public sanctioned support while secretly securing energy through condemned sources. If verified, this represents the largest democratic accountability betrayal in EU history. The ultimate question haunting Europe tonight: if the Commission President systematically lied about the continent's most critical challenge, what other fundamental deceptions remain hidden in Brussels' power corridors?